Hello everyone, my name is Fitterspace, and I've been on a journey to beat every GameCube game ever released. So I've been doing this for about 6 months now, and I've already beaten about 60 games, but that's nowhere near the 651 games that have been released. So in this video, I just wanted to tell you about some of the games I've played so far and some fun facts about them. First, I'm playing through all the games in release order, so I started with the 12 North American launch titles, and I just kept going from there. I played through Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and Super Monkey Ball for the first time, and I still think those are two of the better games I've played. But there were a few other launch titles like Crazy Taxi and Luigi's Mansion and Star Wars Rogue Squadron that I also had fun with. I feel like I'm kind of an optimist when it comes to games because I've seriously enjoyed like 80% of the games I've played, and that's including the sports games. That's another thing I need to mention, that around 20% of the GameCube's library are sports games, and that's a pretty conservative estimate because it's not including racing games like Formula 1 or NASCAR, even though they're definitely sports. Now that 20% is football, soccer, basketball, baseball, golf, like all the ball sports. Oh, and hockey too, that counts. I know most people don't get too excited about these ones, but I actually think most of them are pretty good. This was back when Madden was at its peak, and they were constantly adding new features to each game instead of taking them away. And there were also tons of arcade-style games like NBA Street or NHL Hits, which I dare say is one of the best sports games I've ever played in my life, but I'll have to talk more about that some other time. But I know what you might be thinking. How do you actually beat Madden, or any sports game? I mean, some of them have a career mode, but you can usually play those forever if you really wanted to. I've asked a few people what they think, and I always get different answers. Some people say just to win a game and call it there, and others have said to play one season, or maybe just the playoffs if that's an option. Well, I don't think I'm doing the game justice if I only play one match, but playing a full season would get pretty repetitive if I didn't simulate any games. So I've decided to go somewhere in the middle and just play each one for a couple of hours. I think that's long enough to learn how to play, start a franchise if the game has that feature. I mean, not all of them do. Win a couple of games and check out all the features, but it's not long enough to get boring, and I think that's really what I care about. Sometimes I do play for long enough to win the World Cup, but most of the time I don't. Sports games aren't the only ones that don't have endings though. If I asked you to think of a GameCube game that has no ending, and you could play it for however long you want, most people would think of Animal Crossing. Well, yeah, this is one of those games you really can't beat, so what do? Well, I plan to play Animal Crossing pretty much like the developers intended, which is to play it for 30 minutes or an hour a day until I get bored of it. There are some goals you can go for, like paying off your debt or doing all the chores, but I really don't think I should count doing Tom Nook's chores as beating the game. I don't know, I'm just going to play it for a while and see where it goes. I think you'd be surprised at just how many GameCube games don't have endings. There are tons of retro game compilations, endless games like The Sims, games that just don't have a single player mode, and even single player games that just don't have clear endings. It turns out there are a lot of games where you can have a debate about what it really means to beat the game. Still, I just try to do the best I can and give every game the time it needs. Now let me tell you about some of my favorite games as well as my least favorite ones. Now up at the top of the list, the top tier best games on the GameCube, you're probably going to have Melee or Tony Hawk or Resident Evil, like that kind of stuff. And I do too, believe me, those are all great. But I wanted to tell you more about the games that most people don't think about. Stuff like Gauntlet Dark Legacy, which I hesitate to call a hidden gem. I mean, it's not that hidden. I had just never heard of it before starting this whole thing. Now, Dark Legacy isn't a perfect game, but I think it's really fun and it has a ton of different levels, all with unique themes. There's also a lot of variety with the different character classes you can be. Plus, it has 4-player co-op. I really think you should try this one out if you haven't already. As for a game you should never try out, look no further than Jeremy McGrath's Supercross World. You're not going to believe me when I say this, but I was actually really excited to play this game. I grew up playing Dave Mirra Freestyle BMX 2, and it's not the greatest game in the world, but I think it's pretty fun. So imagine my surprise when I realized that this game's cover art is basically the same as the one for Freestyle BMX 2. I thought, oh man, it's going to be just like Dave Mirra but motocross. Well, that's not at all what I got. It's bad. It's not the end of the world though. There are still tons of great games out there. Like I just got done playing Aggressive Inline, which was made by the same studio that made Freestyle BMX 2. And you can really see how much influence Tony Hawk's Pro Skater had on this game. That's pretty much how I would describe it actually. It's Tony Hawk, but inline skating. Definitely check this one out if you haven't played it. I think the most surprising thing about playing through the first 60 GameCube games is just how good most of them are. Maybe my standards are a little low, but there have only been maybe 10 or 12 games that I didn't care for. What's even more surprising is that I haven't even gotten to most of the games the GameCube is known for. Since I'm playing these in release order, I haven't played any Mario games, any Zelda games, or Metroid, or Star Fox, Mario Kart, Paper Mario. I mean, there's still tons of great games left to play, but I've got around 600 left before I finish them all, so it's going to be a while. If you want to follow along as I play through these games, I stream all of them on Twitch, and the full playthrough videos are available on my second channel. I'll leave links to them down in the description below. I've also got a website where I've written down my thoughts on individual games, as well as a page where I talk about other things I've considered besides the GameCube. I also want to make more videos about all the weird things I've seen in some of these games, or maybe I could talk about some of the challenges I'll face later down the road. If you can think of anything you want to know, let me know down in the comments and I'll definitely consider it for a future video topic.